Praise for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, what an honor and privilege it is to come before your throne. You've told us to come boldly. And whenever we open your word, we want to make sure that your Holy Spirit is in full measure power in our hearts and minds. Please teach, guide, comfort, and instruct. We ask all these things in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's been half a month. So I'm going to catch us up to where we were. We're in Revelation chapter 6. The last time we met, we ended on verse 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first 11 verses, just so that if you were with me then, you can kind of remember, catch up to where we're going to pick up for tonight. Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to read 1 to 11. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. I haven't yet posted, I should have, I was going to this week, the last presentation that I did, and it'll be available for you to review if you want to. And all the previous uh, um, Bible studies we've had are on YouTube as well, and I provide that link typically on a weekly basis, and I'll do the same thing for what we are doing right now. So from your recollection, what are the seals about? What are the four horsemen of the apocalypse? And what are the souls under the altar? 3 different things. Help me out.
The souls are the slain saints for Christ
Okay. Are they
that are.
alive and
Mhm.
talking, communicating?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, are they alive and talking and communicating?
What's that?
Are these souls under the altar people that are alive and communicating?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna turn something off. Maybe I'll be able to hear.
Okay, anybody else? Help me out. Are these souls under the altar that we say crying out?
No.
Are they alive? And how do we know that?
No, they're sleeping. Sorry.
Yeah. And we know that because the angel says you will rest a bit longer. Mm-hmm. And that's the code word in the Bible that Jesus uses over and over in Daniel and Solomon and many others. You will rest in the dust of the earth until there's a resurrection. Daniel chapter 12, verse 2. Ecclesiastes 9:5. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. John 11:11. And Jesus said, Lazarus is sleeping, but I go to wake him from his sleep.
Mm.
So to Jesus, sleep or rest is a code word for death. You see, because Jesus doesn't believe in death. Mm-hmm. Death is just temporary. And of course, Paul and others in the New Testament say it's nothing to Jesus because he rose from the dead. He conquered death. We talked a little bit about that last time we were here as well. So how about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the 7 seals? What are these all about?
They're I wanted to say nations, but the countries. Or the north, the east, the west, and the south.
Well, the seven seals are just like the seven churches, representing times in history. And we saw that the four horsemen of the apocalypse also are representing major activities that occurred during those time periods, starting with the early Christian church. And we're going to see with the seven seals that they go all the way through to the second coming as well. So we're about ready to open the last of the seals here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up now where we left off, which was verse 12. We'll start with Bonnie and just work around the room. Revelation chapter 6, verse 12.
And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun was as black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon was like blood.
Over. Okay, so that was as blood all over in my book. And the stars of the sky fell on the earth like figs dropping from a fig tree. Both that's I'm done. But can I read that 14?
Just 12 there, and then around to 13.
Okay. I just read.
I'm sorry, 14.
Okay. Do you want me to read the rest of it? Because it kind of goes together.
I'm sure, go ahead.
Okay. Falling from a fig tree when a high wind shakes it. The sky disappeared like a like a scroll rolling up. And all. Well, then go ahead. No, I got a different. 15.
And the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave and the free man hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains.
And said unto the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb.
For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand it?
All right, so I'm going to start. We're going to go back to verses 12 to 14. I'm going to read those quickly, and then we're going to break it down. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. So what do you think is happening here?
Jesus' return.
Well, that's certainly in verse 14, isn't it? That's a very cataclysmic event. How about before that? Because we're kind of collapsing centuries altogether in these three verses here. A great earthquake, sun becoming black, moon becoming like blood, stars falling to the earth.
Hmm.
Well, there was a great earthquake when Jesus was crucified,
There was,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and the stars have fallen, and the moon has became like blood already. I can't remember the dates,
Yeah.
but I know it was.
So just like the other seals, were you going to say something, Laura?
No, I was just nodding in agreement. Hmm.
Just like the other seals. Yeah, go ahead, Bonnie.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that this kind of, I'm taking this to mean that the heavens are opening up and God is getting ready to do his return.
Okay, very good. As far as verse 14 there,
Yeah.
that's what that looks like, right?
Mhm.
And we're going to see that the seventh seal really is, based around the second coming, which is the next seal that is going to occur here. Each of these seals, as we noted, most historians agree, are a period of time in church history, just like the seven churches were as well.
Yeah.
So this would be around the Church of Philadelphia, 1755 to 1844. Does 1844 ring a bell with anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is the 2300-day prophecy of Daniel chapter 8, verse 14. Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. This is what Seventh-day Adventists base what we call the sanctuary doctrine. A judgment process that's beginning on the dead and then continues on to those who are living, and then That's the last thing that occurs before Jesus comes. But this particular time period, we believe, is about 1755 to 1844. So we look for these events or activities to occur during that time frame. There was a renewed focus during that time on evangelism. You had things called the Great Awakening. And actually there were a few Great Awakenings during that time, which were religious revivals that took place. You had mission societies in London and in the United States that were launching missionaries around the world at this time. Bible societies were being formed and just cranking Bibles out and trying to distribute them. And I would say three angels gospel that we look at in Revelation chapter 14 was something that lots of churches were embracing with missionary societies to get the gospel message out to the whole world. And that's what we would call in Matthew chapter 28, the Great Commission.
Yeah.
This is what Jesus Christ has asked us to do. This is basically the last thing he said before he went back to heaven, that I will return when the gospel message has been delivered to all tongues, nations, and peoples, right? So that's our job today. So let's take a look at these events then. Did any of these occur during that time frame, 1755 to 1844? We can see that there was a great earthquake, one of the biggest on the planet, which is the first of these three events that we notice in these verses. It was called the Lisbon earthquake, which occurred November 1, 1755, which launches that time period that we're looking at, which was also a parallel to the Church of Philadelphia. So what we're seeing in Revelation is a span of church history that's being repeated over and over and over again. Whether it's the 7 letters to the 7 churches or whether it's the 7 seals, these time frames are basically being repeated over and over again. And in some cases like this, expanded upon to cite specific events or activities that are occurring during that time frame. So we had this Lisbon earthquake. It was felt from North Africa all the way to the West Indies, which essentially is Cuba, Dominican Republic, the Bahamas, up to 70,000 people. We don't know exactly how many people died in it. We think it was up to a 9.0 on the Richter scale, to give you an idea of the magnitude. And there were places that had 66-foot high tsunamis coming in to give you an idea of the extent of this particular earthquake.
What year was that?
November 1, 1755. So the second activity we see. The second activity we see here is the sun becoming black like sackcloth. Yeah. This occurred in New England, in this country, May 19, 1780, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, lasting several hours. And this is also, by the way, mentioned in other places in the Bible, like Isaiah chapter 13, verse 10. It's mentioned in Mark chapter 13, 24, Matthew 24, which weaves 2 different ideas together, which is really fascinating by Jesus. One is the destruction of Jerusalem coming in 70 AD. When you see, like Daniel mentions, the abomination of desolation occurring, get out of Dodge, Jesus said. Matthew chapter 24. And so in Matthew chapter 24, 29, this phenomenon is mentioned as well. So 3 other places in the Bible mention that this leads up to the final events of Jesus coming. The moon becomes like blood. This occurred May 19, 1780, also in New England. Experienced a day of extraordinary darkness followed by a blood red moon that night. We see Matthew chapter 24 and 29, like I mentioned. Blood moons have occurred during lunar eclipses in 1982, 2014, 2015, and most recently in 2022, to give you an idea. Stars of heaven fell to the earth. You see that it was like a fig tree dropping its figs in a gale. I'm going to show you some pictures of what that may have looked like. So it was called the Great Leonid Meteor Shower, November 12 and 13 of 1833, which was about the time frame, by the way, that William Miller began preaching about Jesus Christ coming soon, because he mistook Daniel chapter 8 verse 14 to be the end of the world. the sanctuary being cleansed. That must mean that the earth is the sanctuary. It will be cleansed by fire when Jesus comes. So he's preaching that Jesus Christ, first of all, he was preaching that Jesus would come in 1843. He didn't realize that you have to add a 1 because there's no 0 year. And so ultimately it became October 22 of 1844, which also became part of the sanctuary doctrine that Adventists only believe in the investigative judgment beginning at that particular time, and that Jesus moved from one type of ministry in a heavenly sanctuary to another type of ministry, which is typified by the most holy place in the sanctuary. I should get the sanctuary model out for us again here. So you had this meteor shower, which was unprecedented, and that woke up a guy by the name of Abraham Lincoln, who went out and took a look at this meteor shower. It was, anybody ever see a meteor shower?
No.
How many meteors do you think, let's say in an hour, in a good meteor shower take place?
100 years.
100? 100 would be pretty good. That would be more than 1 a minute.
I
This
mean,
was-
can't you really see them all falling all over the sky? Not really. I think it'd be hard to judge, but 72,000.
Yeah, so the estimates and scientists in New England took a look at this and made good estimates on how many they believed were falling per hour in the Leonid meteor shower. 72,000 is their estimate of how much it was.
Wow.
Over Boston. And of course, it was a little bit different depending on where you were in North America. And indeed, it was like a mighty big tree shaken by a wind that we see in Matthew chapter 24, 29, Isaiah 34:4. If you want to look it up in a book, a good description of it, Great Controversy, I'd recommend page. It's real easy to remember, 333.
Hasn't meteors, like, haven't they dropped a lot in a lot of places on Earth?
So I don't know that we've had a meteor shower to that extent since 1833. That's 72,000 meteors a second is something that I've never seen in my life. I've seen a number of meteor showers come through in my lifetime. It has never come close to 100 an hour would be pretty good.
Right.
72,000 an hour is just something that's on a different level, and so is noted by scientists around the world. And we'll take a look at the impact actually that these events had on people back then as well.
Oh, back then, I'm sure it was.
So the sky was heated as a scroll. When it is rolled up, every mountain and island moved. This takes place under the, and then we're going to see something else that has sevens in it, the seventh plague. Ironically, its plagues don't sound good, right? The seventh plague actually is the second coming. And we see this verse taking place during the seventh plague.
Yeah.
If you're on the wrong side of the fence, and you don't have the seal, but rather you have the mark, then indeed it will be a plague for you. The second coming of Jesus Christ. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. People will be running and screaming to the mountains and caves, crying for the rocks to hide them from the glory of Jesus Christ coming. Unfortunately, this will be the majority of the world. They'll be taken completely by surprise. They'll have been taken down the wrong road by their churches or pastors or just never studied the Bible. And we see glimpses of this occurring, mountains and islands being moved in Revelation chapter 16:20 when we get there, Isaiah 34:4, Matthew 24:29 again. And this is a future event here in verse 14. So this is what the Great Lisbon earthquake may have looked like. Remember the tsunamis that were coming in at up to 66 feet tall. This was November 1, 1755, and one artist's rendering of what that may have looked like.
John?
Huh?
So what you were saying was that 12 and 13 were past history, and then as of 14 is still in the future. Is that what you were saying?
Right.
Okay, so also, how did you guys come up with the 1755? How did you come up with that? That these things had to have happened between 1755 and 1844. I missed that part.
Okay, so you'd have to go back to Revelation chapter 2 and 3 when we were going through the 7 letters to the 7 churches. And you, most biblical theologians agreeing that starting with, anybody remember the first church?
Laodicea.
First church would be Ephesus.
On
And this was, and by the way, all these 7 churches were real communities that are in present day Turkey. But we understand that this represents history from John's time in about 95 AD, all the way through Christian history through the second coming of Jesus Christ. So biblical scholars and theologians have agreed at about what time frames each of these churches were, based on the recommendations and warnings that Jesus gives to each one. And so we've broken it down to approximate dates. They're probably not perfect. But this particular 6th seal that he would line up with the Church of Philadelphia, which we saw in Revelation chapter 3, would have been 1755 to 1844. So the 7 seals are essentially aligning with what we've already gone through with the 7 churches. That's how we come up with the 1755 to 1844. You'd have to go back and maybe review some of the earlier Bible studies we did on that. So all we're doing, Biddy, is we're repeating church history over and over again through the 7 letters to the 7 churches, now through the 7 seals. We're going to see the 7 last plagues actually will be in the future after probation closes. But these all relate to church history, with the last church Bonnie mentioned being the church that we're in now, the Church of Laodicea, which goes all the way up until the second coming of Jesus Christ. All right, so that's where we get the starting point of 1755. And all of these events we see that are listed here in verses 12 and 13 are within those time frames. And we would expect that to be the case.
Oh, okay. So when I guess I was a little confused about that, because there have been a whole bunch of earthquakes that were above 9.0 and larger, real big earthquakes. And so that, I guess that's where I was confused. So whatever happened, it had this verse 12 and 13 had to happen. 13, is it? And it starts from him. So 12 and 13 had to happen between 1755 through 1844, and that's why you said that the Lisbon earthquake was the one that they were looking for.
That's correct. And so we would expect to see these events occur during that time frame. Not to say, Betty, that we're not going to have big earthquakes, or even days where the sun is dark in different places on the planet, or big meteor showers. I think probably we'll see some of those as well. But these were outstanding, certainly for that time. And they also were at the right place and the right time between 1755 and 1844.
Okay, so also in Revelation, it talks about an earthquake, such a big earthquake that nobody has ever seen it before. And this is not the same earthquake, apparently, because we've seen it.
So this earthquake that you're referring there is verse 14, when we see the sky receding like a scroll and every mountain and island moving out of its place. That's a pretty big earthquake.
Yeah.
So that would be bigger than a 9.0 there, and that would be around the direct events immediately, leading up to the second coming of Jesus Christ. So yes, there will be lots of activity. Matthew chapter 24, Jesus lists all the things that are going to be happening: wars and rumors of war, and earthquakes, and all kinds of pestilences in diverse places. He's listing lots of different things occurring. But we would expect these 3 events: a great earthquake, sun becoming black, the moon like blood, occurring within this time frame, which would have been during a parallel to the Church of Philadelphia.
Okay. So one more question I have, John.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what year it was, but they called it the summer, the year that there was no summer because the sun was darkened. Is that the same sun became black?
So I think that probably back in the Ice Age, there were times where, and this is why we had an Ice Age, by the way. People will say that the Ice Age has occurred hundreds of thousands of years ago. The Ice Age occurred after the flood, which was about 4,400 years ago. And you had thousands of volcanoes going off at the same time around the world. I was going to high school in Pennsylvania when Mount St. Helens went off in 1980. It cooled the temperature in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
One volcano on the West Coast cooled the temperature in Pennsylvania. Imagine thousands and every mountain you see in Northern California was a volcano. Shasta, Lassen, the Sutter Buttes. Every single mountain you see was an active volcano spewing rocks and ash up into the atmosphere. You had lots of water, obviously, after the flood. What happens when the core temperature of the Earth cools down rapidly? Those become big glaciers and big blocks of ice, and this is what occurred immediately after the flood. But there were times like immediately after the flood where I'm sure there were weeks or months where it was very, very dark. And so you'll read about maybe some of those in biology books or history books, but this was a very specific day that occurred in 1755. What I have on the screen is a picture, probably a wood engraving or something like that, that somebody made at that for that event, probably about noon. And the roosters were going and chickens were going back to bed.
Yeah.
This is a poem you see on the right, and I'm going to quote some of it to you. People were writing poetry about this.
Yeah.
This was such a significant event. So we haven't had for the last couple hundred years events like this during that period of time that were so significant that people are sitting down and writing songs and poems and books and stories about these events. They were outstanding events. And again, they occurred precisely at the time that they should have, based on the chronology of the Christian church going to the Church of Philadelphia, again in that time frame, 1755 to 1844.
I just looked it up right now, the year without a summer. And it was in 1816, a global climatic anomaly in 1816 caused by a massive 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia. It was in the year without a summer that I was talking about was 1816.
Oh, thank you. There have been others, I think Krakatoa and others that have been very significant and certainly caused issues regionally, as far as ash and I'm sure clouds and darkness and those types of things as well. But thank you. 1816. Again, Betty would have been within that time frame.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting event.
And it was global. It wasn't just local to anything. It was a global anomaly.
So that's something that we should probably add next time we do a Bible study in this house. So as far as this dark day, we paid more attention to it, Betty, probably because it happened where our home was. North America, New England, this is basically where Americans lived at that point in time. So this was important to us, but there probably were other events occurring around the same time, like the one that you just mentioned, that may have had a much broader effect than just New England. But this was the darkest day of the American Revolution, a day as dark as night, a day when a candle was needed to see anything outside at noon. On May 19, 1780, the sun came up as usual, but then the skies over New England darkened as far north as Portland, Maine, and as far south as New Jersey. There, George Washington, fighting the Revolutionary War, reported the dark day in his diary, though he seems to have gotten the date wrong for some reason. Heavy and uncommon kind of clouds, dark and at the same time a bright and reddish kind of light intermixed with them. Brightening and darkening alternately, Washington wrote. This continued till afternoon when the sun began to appear. The wind in the morning was easterly. After that, it got to the westward. So George Washington is noting this, just like another president, Abraham Lincoln, is noting the Leonid shower. So you have America, well, he wasn't a president then, but a future American president noting what was going on. This dark day, certainly in New England, in this country, inspired terror, panic, and puzzlement. Men prayed, women wept, thousands left off work and took to taverns to drink or to church to pray, depending on what road you were going down there. Children were sent home from school. Chickens went back to their roosts. Frightened cattle returned to their stalls. The night birds whistled and frogs peeped as they did at midnight in the middle of the day. Was it an eclipse, a blazing star, the transit of Venus? In Salem, the Reverend Nathaniel Whitaker thundered the dark day was a rebuke from the Almighty for the sins of the congregation. Some wrung their hands and listened for the sound of trumpets announcing Judgment Day. This was a big deal, certainly in this country in North America. You had a poet write, 19th of May, a gloomy day, when darkness veiled the sky. The sun's decline may be a sign some great event is nigh. So you had people waxing poetic as a result of what happened. I'm not going to read all this. In Connecticut, members of the legislature called the state council, feared the dark day signified the day of judgment. Some members clamored to adjourn the session. Abraham Davenport earned lasting fame for his response, I'm against adjournment. The day of judgment is either approaching or it is not. If it is not, there's no cause for an adjournment, and if it is, I choose to be found doing my duty. I wish, therefore, that candles may be brought and we continue doing what we're doing. There you go. That was Abraham Davenport.
Wow.
So this is artist renderings of the Leonid meteor shower, again, up to 72,000 meteors per hour. It would have been quite a fireworks display going on consistently for hours at a time. This is reported in science magazines like the Victorian Amateur Astronomer. Agnes Clerks, an astronomy writer, wrote on the night of November 12 and 13, 1833, a tempest of falling stars broke over the earth. The sky was scored in every direction with shining tracks and illuminated with majestic fireballs. At Boston, the frequency of meteors was estimated to be about half that of flakes of snow in an average snowstorm. Their numbers were quite beyond counting, but as it waned, a reckoning was attempted from which it was computed, these are scientists now, and this is a different number, on the basis of that much diminished rate, that 240,000 must have been visible during the 9 hours they continued to fall.
So that was a meteor shower, not stars falling.
No, it's not stars falling. These are meteors. Yeah. All right, so verses 15 to 17 now, let's move forward. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains. What is this event?
Second coming.
That's right, and the second coming, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? Wow. So everyone, regardless of class or status or culture, are impacted by the seventh plague, the coming of Jesus. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne.
Swords not, huh?
So facing Jesus is more fearful than death. See Hosea 10:8. How do we do that? A little bit of time here. Somebody go to Hosea 10:8 for me. Somebody go to Luke 23:30. Somebody go to Romans 1:18. First one who gets there, go ahead and read for us.
Romans
1:18.
1:18.
The person?
Hosea 10:8.
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness.
Very good. And what verse was that you just read?
Romans.
Romans, thank you, 1:18. So we have Hosea and Luke.
Hosea what?
Hosea 10:8.
Okay. I got Hosea 8.
Hosea 10:8.
10:8. I mean, the high places of wickedness will be destroyed, and it is the sin of Israel. Thorns and thistles will grow up and cover the altars, and they will say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us.
All right, who's got Luke 23:30?
I do. That ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay. That was Luke 23:30.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
that was 22:30.
Oh, it sounded a little odd to me. 23:30 is what we're looking for.
Okay. Okay, well, hang on. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us.
That's what we're looking for. All right. So then for the great day of his wrath has come, who can stand? Somebody go to Nahum 1:6 for me. I'm going to take you to the most obscure books in the Bible here. Somebody go to Malachi 3:2, and somebody go to Luke 21:36.
I got Luke 21.
Yep.
Nahum.
Okay, what?
Nahum 1:6, Malachi 3:2, Luke 21:36.
So Nahum what?
Nahum 1:6.
Okay, I got Luke 21:36.
Okay, go ahead.
Watch therefore and pray continually, that ye may be counted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and that ye may stand before the Son of Man.
Very good.
Amen.
Yeah, I think I got Nahum.
All right, 1:6.
Who can stand before the indignation, and who can abide in the fierceness of his anger, and fury is the power out of like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him.
Okay. Malachi 3:2.
But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap.
Very good. So what is the second coming going to look like? There have been lots of artist renderings,
Depends on which side you're on.
and here's one up on the screen that shows angels. There will be a whole lot more than that. By the way, clouds are mentioned in the Bible. They often refer to thousands and millions of angels. There will be, they'll empty out heaven when Jesus comes. And then you have people who appear to be part of the 144,000 that we'll be talking about there. But people will also be rising out of their graves at the same time, and actually will meet Jesus in the air first, before those of us who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds, and there we shall be with the Lord forever. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17. So this is certainly one artist rendering of what that might look like. Right? So this is the culmination of the seventh plague, the end of the Church of Laodicea, the seventh seal. So this is the culmination of the sevens that occur in the book of Revelation. There will be something that occurs before this that we're going to get into, and it will be called the seven last plagues. So what do you think? Do we want to tackle some more tonight? This is the end of Revelation chapter 6. You tell me if you'd like to dive in for some more.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we got 20 minutes.
Okay?
John?
Yes.
Okay. So you said this was okay, the Church of Laodicea, the the seventh seal,
Uh-huh.
and then you said another one, the seven last plagues.
Well, the seven last plagues are going to occur before all seven of them will occur just before Jesus comes in, and after probation closes, so that people will have been sealed by God or marked by Satan. Then the seven last plagues will take place, and we'll take a look at this coming up. And
okay. So maybe I meant the seven bowls. So the Church of Laodicea is the seventh one, the seventh seal, and then the seven bowls, the seventh bowl. Or am I misunderstanding?
we'll get into that. Right now, we've covered the seven letters to the churches. We have covered the The four horsemen of the apocalypse, we have covered the seven seals, and we'll be getting into some more sevens here. But if you'd
Oh,
like,
that's good.
yeah, if you'd like, we'll dive into Revelation chapter 7 here. So let me share here on the screen. Hold on momentarily. So everybody can see what I'm looking at here. And I think we're just gonna start at the beginning here. All right, everybody out there see
Beautiful picture.
Revelation chapter 7?
Revelation chapter. Yeah.
All right. So I have at the beginning of each one of my Bible studies basically the same information about who John is, the circumstances around how this vision was delivered, and where was it? Where was it that John received his vision?
Patmos.
The island of Patmos, right?
Mhm.
We have lots of sets of seven. Some people believe that there are 18 or more. I would encourage you to count. Count all the sevens as we go through the book of Revelation. By the time we get done, you can tell me how many there are. Here are some of the sets of sevens. We have seven angels with seven vials, or as Betty said, seven bowls. We have the seven last plagues. And I've listed them there. This is after probation is closed. We have seven kings plus one. We're going to get into that as well. We have symbols, and I think on the first day of our Bible study, I handed out cheat sheets for you. I don't know if you still have them or not, but there are pages of symbols, a lot of them that you'll find throughout the Bible as well as the book of Revelation. I have a slide that just tells you who John was. Relative to everything that we see in the gospel messages, and how many books did John write?
7?
Okay. Good guess, Laura, but I believe it was 5. So you have the book of John, you have 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and you have Revelation. But he should have written a couple more. Maybe there's some lost John books out there so that he'd have 7 books. That'd be great. So we just went through the summary of Revelation chapter 6, which is the opening of the first 6 of 7 seals. We saw 4 horsemen, which basically show different aspects of end times. The 5th seal was the prayers of the martyrs asking God how long. The 6th seal was natural disasters unleashed. God will judge sin was the element in Revelation 6. Believers can stand victorious before the throne. So you're going to see a paintbrush. You're going to see this vision collapsing centuries together in 2 or 3 verses, like we saw, of the Church of Philadelphia and the events that would take place between 1755 and 1844, and then Jesus is coming. So everything in between somehow, collapsed or just became much more compact. And then we keep on going over this and expanding on it each time we do. All right, so we're going to get into Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 to 8 now. And maybe we'll start with Laura. If you could read verse 1 for us, and then Eddie, verse 2.
Okay, it's really small. Really small.
I'm sorry.
I don't think I can see
It's okay. We'll go to Dean, first one.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth and holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor any tree.
All right, and Betty, maybe you could read verse 2. I don't know if we lost Betty and Frank. If you're
Oh,
there,
sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Okay, so and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea.
and go ahead with verse 3 there too, and then maybe Frank in verse 4 and 5.
And saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
And then 4 and 5.
Yes.
I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 12,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000.
Okay, and Bonnie, verse 6.
Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000.
Of the tribe of Simeon. Simeon, okay, 12,000 were sealed. Of the tribe of Levi, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Issachar, 12,000 were sealed.
From the tribe of Zebulun,
Mhm.
12,000 from the tribe of Joseph, 12,000 from the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed.
All right, let's take a look at verse 1 here. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. So when I was going through the book of Daniel, this was my explanation as to why World War III hadn't started with between Iran and the United States. In the process over the last few years, Israel was taking out Hezbollah and Hamas, who were our proxies, basically terrorism groups that are funded by Iran. And Iran finally decided, you know what? Our proxies are getting decimated. We're just going to get the job done ourselves. So and by the way, it was somebody that Trump in his first administration decided that he was going to take out because propaganda posters were circulating through Iran of this guy on a radio. Okay, let's call the strike in, standing in front of the White House with a big explosion coming out of the White House, which happened to be the precise location of Trump's bedroom. Trump said, "That's it. I've had enough." So he sends a drone into Tehran's international airport and takes out this guy sitting in a van in front of the airport. And Iran said, okay, it's on. We're going to decimate any of your Air Force bases that you're using within the Middle East and the vicinity. It's going to be incoming. And Trump said, you kill one American and we are going to take you out. I showed in my Bible studies in Daniel the results of that strike on our Air Force bases, and it was just twisted steel that was left over, but not one American died. You had 109 who might not have been able to hear very well after that, but they were all alive. As a result, we didn't get into a major war with Iran, which of course Syria and China and Russia and everybody would have piled on, and it would have been on. Why? Because of verse 1 here. I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. They are holding back the winds of strife until the time has come and everything has been fulfilled, and then it will be on. So the 4 angels represent God's divine power, holding back the forces of evil on earth until God's work on human hearts is completed and his people are sealed in their foreheads. And we saw this in Revelation chapter 6, verse 17.
So if you think that, then does that mean that the sealing process is going on right now? Because it says that they won't be sealed, that they're holding it back so that they can seal the 144,000.
That's right, Betty. I do believe it takes place. However, having said that, I believe it's 1 Peter where we find out that the sealing process will occur, or the judgment process will occur with God's people first.
Yeah.
So I expect, Betty, that I'm first in line. When, my name could come up tomorrow, it could come up next week, but I'm first in line. And so if I say that I'm part of God's people, then I will be sealed or marked first And then God will move on to other religions and other people on the earth, and people say, I don't even know God. But that sealing and marking process will take place with everybody who will be alive essentially just before Jesus comes again. And yes, I do believe that that sealing process is going on right now.
So start at the house of God.
That's correct.
So also did what verse did you just say about the judging process starts first with the people?
Okay, let me look it up quickly, or somebody can beat me to it. Judgment starts with God's house first is the quote that I'm looking for. And
what I couldn't hear you.
I'm looking it up for you.
Oh, I thought you just said John something. That was gross.
All right, so this is, like I said, First Peter, it is chapter 4, verse 17. And the phrase is judgment begins in the house of God.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the investigative judgment that Adventists believe started in 1844, this was on the righteous dead first. Those who said, I belong to God and died, they're in the grave. The judgment process, it goes through them. But when it gets to the living, then 1 Peter 4:17 said, well, now judgment will begin on the living in the house of God. Those who say that they are part of God's chosen people is where the judgment continues from there.
Okay, because the reason I was asking was because I just read something like that, but I can't remember where I read it at but it was in the Old Testament. I think it was either in Ezekiel or Isaiah.
Yes.
And it was saying the same thing, that the judgment process is going to start with the elders of the church or something like that.
Yeah, and that very well may be true, Betty. The one that I'm most familiar with is 1 Peter 4:17. All right, so the four corners of the earth, the whole earth is being threatened. Of course, the earth doesn't have corners, right? It's just a poetic way of saying the four directions of the compass, the four corners of the earth. It's not to represent that the earth is flat, like some people want to represent. It's just the four compass directions on the planet, the four corners of the earth. We see this in Daniel chapter 8:8, Mark 13:27. And then I'm going to read something that is written by Ellen White. It's extra biblical here. She says, viewed in the light of the great controversy between Christ and Satan, these destructive forces represent the efforts of Satan to spread ruin and destruction everywhere. In symbolic vision, John saw four angels, actually many angels, not four, are employed in the task of holding in check the designs of the enemy. These angels belt the world. They are keeping the armies of Satan at bay until the sealing of God's people shall be accomplished. To your point, Betty, that sealing process is continuing right now, and we have a space, a time, a few days, a few weeks, maybe a few months before those angels release the havoc that is coming on the planet. They are given the work of keeping back the raging power of him who has come down like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. You're going to see a lot of simple Bible quotation when Ellen White writes something. This is just directly out of the Bible. And then Great Controversy, page 614. When the work of sealing is completed, then God will say to the angels, no longer combat Satan in his efforts to destroy. Let him work out his malignity upon the children of disobedience, for the cup of their iniquity is full. When the four angels finally let go and cease holding in check the malicious designs of Satan and the fierce winds of human passion, all the elements of strife will be let loose. The whole world will be involved in ruin more terrible than that which came upon Jerusalem of old, which was horrific. This is 70 AD. You had 1 million Jews slaughtered. Josephus, who was an eyewitness, a Jewish historian, said you could not walk a mile in any direction outside of the city once it had been destroyed without people writhing on crosses that the Romans had raised to nail them to when they dragged them out and put them up on crosses. People were beaten, they were tortured, they were put on crosses. 1 million Jews died, and yet Jesus gave the warning in Matthew chapter 24 when you see, as Daniel wrote, of the abomination of desolation occurred, which is enemy forces surrounding God's temple and his chosen people, get out of Dodge. So when Titus, general of the Roman army, came, surrounded the city, and then for some strange reason stepped back, it said, and I don't know how to prove this, that every Christian that had listened to Jesus Christ and took his words to heart, and by the way, by 70 AD, you had the book of Matthew, chapter 20, you didn't have chapter 28, it was just one book, the book of Matthew. They had read it, they knew it, and they went like Jesus said. And Jesus actually even told them, by the way, in Matthew chapter 24, where to go when this occurred. And so when the forces inextricably backed off the walls, the Christians in the city said, this is our opportunity, and they got out of Dodge. And it's said that not one Christian died in that process. By the way, not one follower of Jesus Christ should die as the 7 last plagues are falling and after probation closes, because all decisions have been made.
Everything's sealed.
You might have a death sentence on your head. You might be in a prison cell somewhere. Terrible things may be going on around you, but there will be no reason for you to die at that point in time, because every decision will have been made and will have been sealed forever, whether it is a mark of the beast or whether it is the seal of God. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into what both of those mean, of course, in the book of Revelation. Let's go through a couple more verses quickly here, verses 2 and 3. Boy, we've only gotten through one verse, my goodness. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. So a 5th angel calls out to the 4 angels, holding the winds back, and these are symbolic. As Ellen White points out, there's a whole lot more than 4 angels that, are flapping around up there, trying to hold satanic forces back. They are banding the planet. You probably have millions of angels. If we could pull the veil back like you could in Job chapter 1, it would be an astounding sight to see physical combat occurring to keep those forces at bay until the time has come where everybody, all God's people, have been sealed. This is your opportunity. This is our opportunity to make sure that we're right with God, and that we're also taking every opportunity to share with our friends, our neighbors, and our family.
Yes.
So to Betty's point, there's other places in the Bible that point this out. We see Ezekiel chapter 43, verses 2 to 5. Matthew 24:30, Great Controversy, pages 640 and 641. Ezekiel seeing the glory of God entering the temple from the east. It's interesting that Ezekiel focuses a lot of time on the apostasy of God's people and the agony he feels over what they're doing. And the agony over what he feels that they're doing is breaking the Sabbath. Read Ezekiel. That's what Ezekiel is all about. You have people who are in God's temple, in his sanctuary, turning around and worshiping the rising sun.
Turn their back, yeah.
So the seal of God is on this messenger, indicating God's authority and ownership. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 19. You have testimonies, I believe, page 446. The sealing of God's people prepares them to stand through a time of trouble. Revelation 7:1. Do not harm the sea, the earth, sea, or trees till God's people are sealed in their foreheads. The seal or mark stands for your moral decision making, character, and an active choice to stand firmly for God. And Betty again is citing places in Ezekiel that she's read recently. You can read this in Ezekiel 9:4-6, and also Exodus chapter 28, verses 36 to 38. Ephesians 4:30. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, where you are sealed unto the day of redemption. How are we sealed? Psalm 48. I delight to do your will, O my God. Your law is within my heart. Hebrews 8:10. For this is the new covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds, not different laws, the same law, and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God. And they shall be my people, repeated from Jeremiah 31:33. 605 BC, before Jesus Christ ever even came on the scene. You had the new covenant operating at that time. All right, so we're going to stop all of verse 3 there, and Revelation chapter 7. We're making tremendous progress, Sherry. I'm so proud that we have gotten so far. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your word, for laying out Bible prophecy for us, giving us an understanding of events that have taken place, events that will take place, where we are in the stream of history right now, and the importance of recognizing, understanding, and being prepared not only for that day, but also taking the Great Commission on and making sure that we are at the center of your will and sharing the gospel message with those around us as well, reflecting Jesus Christ better each day. We ask that, we request that, we need the mind of Jesus Christ. We thank you for it in advance. In his name, amen.
Thank you, John. Always.